So I really love painting with Gansai, traditional Japanese watercolor. And there's so many differences between traditional watercolor and gouache and Gansai that I knew there had to be fundamental differences between the two. So I really did a deep dive and really did some research about Gansai. And I want to be able to clarify a whole bunch of myths about it and really answer the question, what is Gansai? So I'm going to do that today. So I can't wait to get started. So let's hop inside. So today we're really going to be talking about what exactly are the differences between Gansai, which is Japanese watercolor, and Western watercolor, because there's quite a few differences between the two. So I just received a new box of Gansai. These are the Gansai Tambi watercolors that we see very often in the United States and other places, and these are the ones that are most commonly seen here, and especially in the United States we see these a lot. Now this is a set I've had for quite a long time, so I've had these probably, I think I bought them in 2021, and I've used them a lot. And they have really held up well, and I've had them a very long time. I take them to classes, I take them when I'm traveling sometimes if I'm going locally or, on a car trip or something. And they have really held up. Now, the thing that I think a lot of people aren't really aware of is that you can buy the individual pans for replacement. So when you're getting low on a color, you don't have to buy a whole new set. For instance, you can, underneath the pan itself, it will say what color it is, so you could actually go online and you can purchase just that pan. If you want to replace pans in your set, you don't have to buy the whole thing over again. The thing about Gansai also is that they reactivate really quickly with water, even if they're bone dry. So I love that about them too. So inside the top of the box, it comes with like a little swatching chart that you can do, which I usually like to do that. Now this is the set of 48. It's a big set, so I did that right away when I got it, and there was just this little one that was, I don't know how that happened, but it was a little worn out, so I just reactivated it and painted over. I don't know, there was a piece of paper stuck to it. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, they do get a lot of use and stuff. So, but I got the Art Nouveau set recently, and I have not, I think I only used it once. And so I'm going to swatch that out while we're talking about Gansai. And so the main difference between Gansai and traditional American or Western, I want to call it Western watercolors, is that in Western watercolor, it uses gum arabic as a binder. And in Japanese watercolor, they use different binders altogether. Their whole thing is it has a whole different base, a whole different binder, and what they use is more animal based. So it's like animal hide glue, beeswax, and sugars or syrups like glycerin. So having it have such a different composition than Western watercolor is why the consistency is so different. It's very creamy. It goes on a little bit thicker than even gouache, and it dries with a beautiful sheen rather than being flat or matte like Western watercolor. Gansai is also kind of designed to sit on top of your substrate or paper rather than absorb into your paper like Western watercolor. Western watercolor is designed to really absorb into the paper fibers, where Gansai sits on top of the paper. And so it's a lot easier to lift. So if you like to lift colors off or blot, use a blotting technique, or go back in and even after your painting is dry and scrub out areas, Gansai is much easier to work with that way because of the way it's formulated. The other thing that differentiates it from something like gouache is that gouache tends to get very chalky, and it kind of breaks down if you water it down too much, where Gansai, because it has an extremely high pigment load, can become very transparent and beautiful when you water it down. It doesn't get that kind of chalkiness that gouache can sometimes get. So in that way, it can be layered because it will become really beautiful and transparent and act almost like a transparent watercolor when you water it down more. Because Gansai has such a high pigment load, pretty much the colors stay very true even when they dry. So a lot of times with Western watercolor, your colors change a little bit after they dry, or they may fade a bit, but Gansai stays very intense and highly pigmented even after it dries. So pretty much what you see in the pan or on your swatch sheet is pretty much what you're going to get with Gansai. With that being said, however, you want to keep in mind that they do tend to fade a little bit more than regular traditional watercolors. And so they're really wonderful for sketchbook work, making cards and things like that, but they will fade in the light just a little bit. So you do have to be a little concerned about if you're going to make a painting or something, about where it's going to hang and, keeping it out of the light. But that can be said of a lot of watercolors. I don't think they're quite as stable as some higher end professional brand watercolors. So that's something that you just need to keep in mind. The other reason that they come in so many gorgeous pre-mixed colors is that they aren't really made to be mixed. So that's why you have them in these sets like the Art Nouveau, and there's other little sets like that. Kuretake Gansai Tambi comes in all these little sets that are designed to all the colors will blend and look really nice in a painting together, and they come in these big sets with lots of different varieties of pre-mixed colors because they really aren't made to mix all that well. So that's the other reason that they come in these sets of lovely colors, because they don't mix the way regular watercolors mix. So that's why they give you the big variety of colors to get going with. So those are all things to take into consideration when using these paints. So I just want to briefly touch on the vegan question about the Kuretake Gansai Tambi, because there's a lot of conflicting information about it on the internet. So originally Kuretake Gansai Tambi said that they were a completely vegan product, and they do not contain animal hide glue or beeswax or any of those things, but they do contain gelatin. And so they have come forward and said that, and you can still find places that are saying that they're a vegan product, but they do contain the gelatin. So if that's an issue for you, you may want to take that in consideration before purchasing this product. So I just wanted to clarify that. So here in my sketchbook, I'm just kind of putting down like a little abstract layer with the very transparent layer of this Gansai paint, and this is how I use it for layering. I just sometimes start my watercolors or paintings with this kind of a loose abstract-y kind of mark making layer, and then I will you know, just paint over that, and it just kind of gives me a little base to create on top of. It gives me some marks underneath, and it comes through the painting and gives additional layers of marks and just interest and excitement underneath. I may cover it all up, or I might not cover any of it up. And so that's just what I'm doing here, is just kind of activating the page with a little bit of an abstract, but I've watered it down quite considerably because it is so thick and creamy that if I'm going to do something like that with a layer that I'm going to paint over, I do it with a thin layer with the Gansai, because it is quite different than regular watercolor. Because I also do this technique with regular watercolor, and I'm not quite as worried about watering it down if I'm doing that with regular watercolor, because everything would absorb into the paper with it better in just its regular form. But with the Gansai, you really have to water it down, otherwise it's not going to soak into the paper. It's just going to sit on top. And so like once I did that, it does soak in, and then I can just kind of layer over with the regular paint and get my little layer of mark making underneath. And so that's kind of how I proceed with it. And you know, I just really like the vibrancy of the colors, and I really enjoy using them. I have several sets of these paints, and I really do use them quite a bit. And I don't know, I mean, they're not quite gouache, they're not quite watercolor. I love the array of colors. I do use them a lot in my sketchbook. There's so many things I do really love about them. I do like that that slightly shiny quality that they have, and I do really love the mix of colors. I have the big set has some iridescent paints that I really enjoy using, and some metallics that I love. But I love the way they stay put, and you can you know, do a lot of mark making over them. So I do layer quite a bit, even though, you know, they're not really designed for layering. As long as one layer is dry, you can go in and layer over them. I really do enjoy these paints, and I was just like, for the longest time, didn't really know a lot about them. And I just really wanted to be able to like really look into what exactly they were, and just share that information with you. And so I'm going to link in the description box below to these sets of paints that I'm using today. And actually the other one that I also have that I really like, it's another smaller set of really beautiful colors. And so that you can try them if you'd like. And you know, I really do recommend these. I do recommend them to my students. A lot of my students use them. I really like them for sketchbook work. So I think the big takeaways are really trying to understand what's different about Gansai, and that understanding that it's a totally different medium than Western watercolor. The binder, the pigment load makes it different. It's just a different, unique medium all into its own. So it kind of bridges the gap between watercolor and gouache, but it's distinctly neither. So It's giving us a vibrant, highly pigmented experience, and we can apply it opaquely or thin it down to like a transparent wash. It sits more on top of our paper, and that's what gives it the characteristic sheen, and it makes it really easy to lift off and correct areas. And it's really for anyone. It's for experienced watercolorists, it's for beginners, it's for everybody who really likes the bright, bold, vibrant colors without a lot of hassle. And so it can feel like really familiar if you're used to using watercolor a lot, but it's also different and new just because of the array of like really fabulous colors that it comes in. So you might want to try it if you haven't tried it already. I really enjoy using it. It's not like my everyday paint, but I do go back to it time and again because I really do enjoy using it. And so it's something to think about, and if you've been using it for a while and didn't really understand the differences, I hope this video helped you figure some of those out. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit like, share, and subscribe because it really does help the channel grow, and I really do appreciate it so much. Thank you all for being here, and please come again soon.